over time, the purchase orders increase. So it's a combination of having the strategy in place, but also having the mindset and patience, which that's challenging.
This is the Ecommerce Braintrust, a podcast about building momentum online for established consumer brands. Join our hosts and their expert guests for high-level conversations about e-commerce strategies, trends, and innovations. Access our Braintrust and boost your brand's e-commerce potential.
Hello and welcome to the show. I am your host, Kiri Masters, founder of Bobsled Marketing, and I'm joined by your co-host, Julie Spear, Operations Manager at Bobsled Marketing.
Hi, Kiri. Hi, everyone.
So today we're talking about inventory management, and I kind of joke that this is like the unsexy side of selling products on Amazon because it just seems so kind of obvious and such a basic thing, but it really is in a lot of cases the bane of our existence as a company that helps brands to manage their Amazon sales channel.
Yeah, inventory is kind of that hot button topic, most definitely.
And there's a lot to it as well. It's easy enough for us to kind of look at an assortment on Amazon and specify what inventory we need, but there's a lot that kind of goes into that in terms of specifying what the forecast looks like for the inventory, looking at seasonality. And then, of course, the brand themselves will have potentially some issues with manufacturing and their supply chain and even cash flow. And so those are all things that we'll get into today. But I think to kind of give some context around why it is so important, we're recording this episode just around Q4, the end of the year. And this is a particularly important time to be thinking about inventory.
Yeah, if you want, Q4 on Amazon is the most glorious time of the year for sellers and brands. And in order for it to reach its potential, maintaining steady inventory levels is absolutely critical. So This is a really important topic, very timely.
Yeah, you're really shooting yourself in the foot as a brand if you're not proactive, especially around this time of the year. So maybe we can consider this a public service announcement from Bobsled.
Yes. Have inventory levels ready and have those FBA and shipments to Amazon at the ready and heading on in.
Yeah, well, maybe you can kick us off, Julie, in terms of what is sort of the basic hygiene tasks that we help clients with at Bobsled Marketing around inventory levels?
Well, we have a daily review process that we do for every client going into every client account, just covering a number of areas within their account, but one of them being inventory. And so we monitor inventory levels on a daily basis. And for clients that are in Seller Central, some of our clients can go back and forth between FBA and FBM, fulfilled by merchant. And so the daily monitoring is helpful for those clients, especially because we can alert them if an FBA level is reaching 0, so we can switch over to FBM and keep a steady availability of their products. On a weekly basis, we're looking at the inventory levels again, and we're calculating the sales velocities of each SKU within their catalog. And that's helpful to just keep an eye on over time because it can help you identify trends, whether there's a product that's plateauing in terms of their sales or declining in sales, or it can identify trends for growth. So that's really essential when you're looking at projections for sending in products to Amazon.
Right. And how is it different on Seller Central as opposed to Vendor Central?
Vendor Central, we're keeping an eye on the purchase orders that are coming in from Amazon. And we want to keep an eye on the levels because sometimes Amazon can kind of up the ante in terms of the quantity of that they're asking for in the purchase orders. And we've had situations where we've seen brands run into, it's a good problem to have when Amazon's asking for more. However, it can be a problem if you're not anticipating it from your own supply chain.
Right.
From that perspective. So monitoring the purchase order levels over time can help us create a picture of where they're going. In Seller Central, it's just as critical, but the seller, the brand themselves, is making the determination of the levels that they're sending in.
Right.
And And we want to keep momentum going. It's really crucial to monitor the inventory levels consistently so we don't run into stockouts. That slows down any momentum that is built over time for their products.
Well, here's a scenario for you. This has happened to a number of our clients before on Vendor Central, where they have a new product or they're just in the early stages of becoming a vendor on Amazon, and Amazon isn't placing purchase orders that reflect what the anticipated demand is. So in that's tough because Amazon is making the replenishment decisions and they're not always made by a human. So
there's a machine?
yeah, it's quite a technology-driven company, turns out.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the bots make mistakes sometimes. So it's hard to for these brands to actually negotiate increase purchase orders for products. So what could brands do in that situation where the inventory side of things is in a lot of ways outside of their hands?
Yeah, we've had situations like that, especially for products that are newer when you're in the launch stages, because it takes a while to establish the need and the purchase order levels. So in some instances, we've had clients, that's where the hybrid model of vendor and seller central together is a solution. And so
hybrid model episode 2.
Exactly. Go back in the archives a few episodes ago.
It's right. It's all a neat tapestry, these topics.
Yeah. It's funny how things are related and they weave together. But that is where the hybrid model would be something to consider. If you go back to episode 2, you'll hear about some challenges that come with it. It's not a perfect solution, but it is a potential solution. So what the brand would do is open a Seller Central account and then offer the ASIN in Seller Central to cover those stock out times because of the slower purchase orders from Amazon on the vendor platform.
Right. So you can basically prove to Amazon that this is a popular product and then they'll start ordering.
Exactly. That's the key. That's the idea.
Yeah.
And it does work. And that's over time, the purchase orders increase. So it's a combination of having the strategy in place, but also having the mindset and patience, which I mean, that's challenging. There's a significant element when selling on Amazon that's a little bit out of your control, and identifying the moments where you can be strategic to work around and get things moving and have a solution, and identifying the moments where it's like, okay, this is one of the costs of selling on Amazon, and having the patience for it is really important too.
Yeah. You can say the serenity prayer.
Yes. Or like on Seinfeld, there is a good Serenity Now episode going way back in the archives for pop culture right there.
Do you have an episode number for that one?
I don't, but it's an episode that plays in my head every so often. It's Serenity Now.
When you're dealing with Amazon.
Yes. Yeah. Or my toddler. Either one.
Right. So got off track a little bit talking about vendor, although it's very important and a very top of mind topic for vendors, obviously. So when, let's say, a brand does actually run out of FBA inventory, there is that option of switching back to FBM, fulfilled by merchant, where the seller is actually fulfilling from their own warehouse or 3PL or however they otherwise can deliver products individually directly to consumers.
Yeah, and that is a good option. I think it's a good stopgap solution, but as a consistent model, it's one that's got its challenges that I think I prefer FBA. But if you need to use FBM as the stopgap solution, I think to replicate your offer, to replicate FBA in your offer to the customers is important. So that would mean free shipping. That would mean free returns. That customers who shop on Amazon don't like it when they have to pay for the shipping of their return. Mm-hmm. They get used to everything being free around that for them. And also, if possible, including expedited delivery so that you're matching what FBA offers. It makes it a more attractive offer for customers landing on your page.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you mentioned it's a good stopgap solution. We don't recommend FBM as a core business model to our clients because customers don't get the Prime eligibility we see a huge drop off in conversions and just overall sales when a product is FBM, because people are now trained by Amazon to basically filter out every product that isn't Prime eligible. It's become such a hallmark of convenience and security for people that they will just kind of screen everything else out.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at my own shopping practices on Amazon, and one of the initial filters I set is Prime eligible.
Right.
When I'm searching. So Prime eligibility is absolute key. And, you know, Amazon doesn't release specific data about the number of Prime subscriptions, customers that they have, but there's a lot of people out there running the numbers and have some really strong estimates about the number of Prime subscribers there are. And it just continues to grow and grow over time. So if that's the market, that it's these Prime customers, then you need to have a Prime offer in order to really compete.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking back, now Prime is it's such a clever marketing and psychological program, because once you pay that $99 a year or however much it is, then you're inclined to try and make the most of it. And so then you're going to immediately go to Amazon to buy products and not really look anywhere else. And also just leverage the Prime program as much as you can so that it makes your membership, quote unquote, worth it. At the time when Jeff Bezos, the CEO and founder of Amazon, sort of unveiled the Prime shipping program, free 2-day shipping with a membership, investors in Wall Street thought he was absolutely bonkers. And it was he had to really sell that program. And a lot of people just didn't think it was a good idea at all. And now basically all other e-commerce marketplaces are out there trying to copy it, because consumers have now been trained to expect free 2-day shipping on all of their orders, or even faster. Now it's 1 hour in a lot of metro areas.
Yeah, I know. I'm stunned whenever I order something online and it takes 5 days. It's like, I can't wait that long. I want to be the Jeff Bezos brand of crazy, because if that was considered crazy back in the day, and to see how it's played out, it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
And looking at the figures around Prime too, you're talking about how customers, they want to purchase at a level to justify the subscription cost. And data does show that Prime customers on an annual basis spend around twice the amount, almost twice the amount that customers without the Prime subscription spend on Amazon. So you definitely want to justify the cost of this subscription. So
yeah, for sure.
Shop away.
Yes, please continue shopping on Amazon, dear listener.
Yes.
So to round out this sort of the importance of inventory management, there's another impact that we see play out really heavily, and that's with pay-per-click advertising.
Yeah. Everything I feel about selling on Amazon, it's about building momentum, not billing. It's about building momentum, and stockouts are just the thing that bring momentum to a screeching halt. It affects your product ranking. If in PPC, it takes time to build the efficiency and productivity of those campaigns for them to for you to get the bang for your buck in the cheapest amount of money. And when you stock out, those campaigns stop. Those ads can't run because you don't have an offer, you have no inventory. And all that momentum comes to a screeching halt. And we've seen instances where it takes up to 2 weeks. Once the inventory returns, it's not like those ads come back to the performance level that they were at when the stock out happened. It stops and there's a rebuilding time, and it can take up to 2 weeks again. So if you factor that in to however long the stock out lasted, your lost sales, your lost momentum, the impact on your upward trend, it's huge. It's sad to see. It's frustrating to see as well, but it's definitely, the impact is significant across the board.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It is the quickest way to kind of stab a knife in the heart of your PPC campaigns once you've gotten them profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing you have going for you in that situation is you have some good data about search terms, and you have a formula that you know works. So again, this is where I guess the patience would come into play. You need to be patient, letting those campaigns get up and running again and build that momentum once again.
Yeah, definitely. We could talk all day about how important inventory management is and have as much inventory available as possible. But from the perspective of the brand, what they're trying to balance most of the time is cash flow. And so the life cycle of getting paid by Amazon varies by what platform you're selling on. But that's the other side of the coin, right? If you don't have enough cash flow to get new inventory into Amazon, then you don't really have a choice. So, Julie, did you know that in a past life, I was a commercial banker at JP Morgan Chase?
I've heard stories.
It was a helpful experience because learning about cash flow and how that works and different options for extending cash flow and maximizing it central to what we're talking about today. So just to kind of give a lay of the land in terms of the different platforms on Amazon, Seller Central, which we talked about, typically Amazon will pay in 2-week increments. And so they will pay every 2 weeks for sales generated over that previous period. So the turnaround time for getting paid is relatively quick, especially compared to the vendor program where you're selling inventory to Amazon on a wholesale basis. So they're placing purchase orders, you fill those purchase orders, then they will typically pay 60 days later. Is that what you usually see, Julie? Is that 60, 90 days? Depends on the terms, right?
It depends on the terms. And if it's 60, you can almost guarantee that when it comes time to renegotiate your terms the following year, they're going to ask for 90. So that's a good opportunity to renegotiate on your own.
Yeah, for sure.
With them.
Yeah. So to play that backwards from when you actually get paid for a sale, you've got on the vendor side 60 days, on the seller side 2 weeks, let's say, and then you might have inventory. It's going to take a while to sell through that inventory. So however long it takes to sell through that inventory that you send to Amazon, so that's a huge variable. Time to send that inventory to Amazon and for them to process it, that could be a couple of weeks, or if you're using a truck carrier, FTL or LTL, it could take even longer. Then you've got your processing time internally, manufacturing time. So you can be talking about quite a long period of time between actually recognizing your inventory needs and getting the product to Amazon and then finally getting paid. So we can talk, I think if this is an interesting topic to our listeners, we can get into options for financing on a later episode and maybe bring in some experts here. But Amazon, at least on Seller Central, does have its own financing program. And I know a lot of sellers have taken Amazon up on that because they make it really easy. Basically, they're looking at all of the financial activity in your account and coming up with it's like a line of credit basically through Amazon. And they're able to extend a line of credit with, a certain APR based on how, I guess, how the bots feel about you at the time. And so basically Amazon will just deposit that amount into your bank account. You can use it for inventory. You could use it for payroll. You could use it for equipment, anything really. I think it's technically supposed to be spent on getting inventory for Amazon. And then they will start taking payments from your disbursements. So it's very easy. I don't think it's the most generous terms or rates available. I think you could probably get a lot better rates through a line of credit with your bank. And there's also a new wave of Amazon lenders out there as well who differentiate themselves on having better terms than Amazon. So if you're interested in hearing more about this topic around cash flow and financing, then comment in our Facebook group and I'll try and get some experts on the show.
Nice, a bonus episode.
So the other thing that factors into inventory that is often an afterthought, Julie, is product returns.
Yeah.
So Amazon has, part of the reason why customers love shopping on Amazon is that they have very generous return policies. And for better or worse, obviously we get more people shopping on Amazon because of that, but we do see a lot more returns on Amazon than through other channels. And unfortunately, some customers take advantage of that and they're returning products and saying they're defective when they're not, and they just change their mind. But they can get free shipping back to Amazon if they say the product's defective. That could take us off on a whole tangent about what kind of chain reaction that sets off.
That's a whole other episode. I think this season's getting longer by this conversation.
Yeah.
In terms of the episodes we could add in here.
Yes.
Yeah, to keep it effective option. Something else.
Yeah. So to keep it on track with product returns, so there's a few options that brands have if they're, well, first of all, vendors selling on a wholesale basis to Amazon. Amazon will just handle all of the returns themselves and either resell the inventory that's sellable or return it to the brand. But on the seller side, the brand has to make a decision about what is to be done with product returns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have the option if it's considered unfulfillable, not sellable, you could have the option of having the product returned to you or destroyed. My recommendation would be to have it returned to you. Then you're sure the product's coming back to you and not necessarily, it's just good confirmation to have the product returned to you. And it's a low cost. I want to say it's something like 40 cents a unit.
Yeah.
I know costs go up over time, but I believe right now it's 40 cents a unit. And there's no shipping fee on top of it. It's literally 40 cents a unit. So it's well worth just get it returned to you.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you're right. It's very inexpensive. Amazon's really motivated to get inventory out of their warehouse because, well, they don't even call them warehouses. They call them fulfillment centers. They don't want to be treated as another warehouse. So that's why they offer such low prices for returning inventory. And you're totally right. Then you have an opportunity to inspect it. If it is sellable, you can repackage it and send that inventory back to Amazon. Again, there are third-party companies out there who specialize in repackaging. And at this point in time, not one of them would be unfamiliar with how Amazon works as well. So that's another option too if you don't have the internal resources to handle product returns, you can engage one of these repackaging companies. Yeah,
those are especially important for brands that are not located in the US, but are selling on Amazon.com. Because you can't, if you're in Australia and shipping to the US to sell on Amazon.com, you can't get your product returned. So those companies would be really important for a brand in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. Okay, so in terms of tools and just the process around inventory forecasting, there are some tools out there online that help companies on Seller Central with their forecasting and using sort of fancy algorithms and things like that to predict inventory forecasting. The one that I am most familiar with is called Forecastly, Forecastly, and they use some kind of proprietary algorithms to help predict how much inventory you should reorder and when you should do that. But the system within Amazon, just in terms of their inventory projection system, how would you rate that, Julie, in terms of a helpful tool? The inventory projections that Amazon provides usually fairly accurate, or do brands really need to kind of run their own analysis here?
I'd give it a thumbs down. I think there can be some helpful information in it, but I think it's rather gappy. Yep. So I think it's much more productive to either use another tool or run your own analysis internally. Right. One of the things too, for those brands that go back and forth between FBA and FBM, you need to almost have a manual process when looking at the Amazon inventory levels, because those tools and Amazon itself, it's spotty what they do with the FBM inventory. Many of the tools don't even count FBM inventory.
Right.
They only factor in FBA. So if you have variance in your catalog where some products are FBA and other are FBM, you can't count on the tool to monitor the levels for you. You're going to need to have a manual approach.
Right. That's a really important point. All right. So we have definitely covered a whole bunch of tips and ideas in this episode about how to make the most of inventory, some of the pitfalls that brands see. And I hope that our public service announcement hasn't fallen on deaf ears and people are going to be really diligent about their inventory planning for Q4 2017.
Absolutely. It's a wonderful time of the year. if you have inventory.
Great. So for show notes of this episode, where we have some more resources and we've written about this topic in the past on our blog, so there's definitely more to dig into here. You can find the show notes for this episode at bobsledmarketing.com/podcast. And I'll catch you soon, Julie.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.